We can now put in our VCC and ground planes. There are a couple of ways of putting them in. You can put them in by shape and polygon, and then come over here and we want to put it on the VCC layer, for instance, just like that. And if we come over to our visibility window, we can put everything off but the VCC plane. And if we open up our options tab, we see that we have VCC, and now we want to put a name. Notice that this says dummy on it. So if we use this radial button, we can put in VCC here and enter that, and we see that VCC comes up, and we say OK, and VCC pops up into this little window here. And we can go ahead and make a polygon, and let's encapsulate a few things. And this is just to show you that you can put them in like this. Say done. And notice that the pads are not cleared or thermaled. Go into Setup, Design Parameters, Edit Global Dynamic Shape Parameters, and what we want to do is update to smooth. And we can say OK, click this off, and if we look, we see that our pads are cleared and the thermals are on pads that connect to VCC. So we did it correctly. A better way of doing it is to follow your route keep-in. In this case, we're going to go to the package keep-in, which is a little actually smaller than the route keep-in. And let's delete this shape here. And let's go ahead and do a Z-copy shape. So we go into Edit and Z-copy. And then we switch the etch layer to VCC. And we say Create Dynamic Shape. And we click this shape here. So at this point, we don't have a name to this shape yet. In order to put a name on the shape, we go into Shape and select Shape or Cavity. We will select this. We do have it on the correct active layer at VCC. We'll click on this. So we click on this radial button, put in VCC, enter, click, say OK, and VCC pops up here, and now we have VCC layer. And we do the same thing for the ground layer. We go enter, edit, Z-copy shape. This time we're going to put it on the ground. And on the visibility, we'll turn that off, turn the ground on. And on the Options tab, everything looks good. Create Dynamic Shape. And click on this shape right here. Okay, so that gives you our shape. And then, of course, we need to go into Shape, select Shape or Cavity. And on this one, we want this one to be ground. So we put G and D right here. Click, say OK, and ground goes right in. So we have our power and ground planes. And now if we wanted to clear them, we go into Design Parameters, Edit Global Dynamic Shapes, and Update to Smooth. And we say OK. Close that down, and we see our pins are cleared. And if we go down to some ground pins, which are here, we see those are thermaled. And also our vias are direct hits, as you can see. If you want to control the shape of thermal reliefs and the clearance areas, we can do that by going into Setup, Design Parameters, and let's bring this over so you can see it. And then we want to do Global Edit shape parameters and clearances, for instance. If you want to make the clearances a little more robust, we can add, for instance, another, say, 4 mils onto that, and say thermal relief control. Instead of having, these are considered orthogonal. Let's say we make them diagonal. And vias, we want to keep those at full contact, which is what you see right here. So if we say OK, notice the thermal reliefs and clearances disappear. So we go back to the Edit Global Dynamic Shapes, and let's do the shape fill, and we'll update to smooth. And notice now these clearances are a little bigger, and also the thermal reliefs have changed from orthogonal to diagonal. Say OK, and we can put this down. And if we measured it, click on our measuring tool. If we zoom in here and we click, we want to make sure we have shapes and pins on. Click here and here. And the air gap before was at 7, and now it's at 11. So you can see that the air gap has, in fact, gotten larger. And if we want to measure the air gap on the vias, we click the shape and the via, and we see that the air gap has not changed because pins and vias are 2 different elements. Now, before we route, we want to make sure that our power and ground planes are completely connected. On some very complicated boards, you might have 10 different powers, or sometimes even more. You might have an analog ground, a digital ground, digital power, and so on. So we click on Display Element, and then we go to our Find tab, and we make sure that nets are clicked on. And then we just click on the power plane, and then scroll down all the way down to the end, and we see that no connections are remaining. Click it off. Let's do the same thing to the ground. So we go to our visibility window, we turn this off, go to the ground layer, turn that on, and do the same thing. And bring it all the way down, and we see no connections remaining. We're good to go.